I'm standing barefoot on the porch while the snow piles up around my toes, the Christmas lights behind me blinking like they're mocking me. My mother's voice is still ringing in my ears, sharp enough to cut through the cold. "You can't do anything on your own, Lena, not one damn thing!" Then the trash bag, filled with God knows what, was shoved into my arms. A moment later, my father's hand slammed the door so hard the wreath nearly fell off, and the lock clicked like a final verdict. Behind me, perfectly decorated houses glow warm with holiday dinners, laughter, families, and there I am, standing in the snow with no coat, no home, and no family willing to claim me. A few neighbors peek through their curtains, pretending they didn't just witness the Carringtons throw their daughter out like she's yesterday's garbage. My phone has no service. My bank app shows a humiliating balance of $182, and the winter wind slices through my thin sweater. For the first time in my life, I truly understand what it feels like to be unwanted. And that's when my hand brushes the inside of my coat pocket and hits something solid, cold, metallic. The old black card my grandfather gave me when I was 6. The one he said to use only when you have nowhere left to go. I finally managed to move my numb feet down the steps and toward my car. The snow makes my sandals slick. I almost fall twice. The trash bag tears open in my arms as I reach the sidewalk. Inside aren't my clothes or my documents or anything that belongs to me. Just random junk. A towel covered in bleach stains, a broken Christmas ornament, a half-burnt candle. They couldn't even give me the courtesy of my own things. My car groans when I start it, the engine whining like it doesn't want to cooperate. Honestly, same. I sit in the front seat with my hands shaking so hard the keys rattle. My breath fogs the windshield. The heater barely works, so cold air blows across my face while I stare at the house I grew up in. Now locked behind a door my parents made sure I could never open again. I replay the scene from 20 minutes earlier. Christmas Eve dinner burned in the oven because my mother was too busy criticizing my posture. My father complaining about the cost of the holiday lights. My brother rolling his eyes at everything I said, then the fuse blew when I told them I wouldn't co-sign a loan they wanted under my name. Suddenly I was ungrateful, selfish, and a leech. Their words piled up faster than the snow outside. My mother snapped first, calling me a disappointment. My father followed with a shouted, "Get out!" that echoed down the hallway. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed how fast my family could discard me. They always said I'd come crawling back, but tonight, as I sit in my cold car staring at their warm windows, something shifts inside me. I don't want to crawl back ever again. But wanting strength and having options are two different things. My stomach growls, reminding me I haven't eaten since yesterday. I look at the time, almost midnight, and my body feels like it's made of hollow glass. I search for hotels nearby, but the prices might as well be $1 million. I try calling a few friends, but my mother spent years quietly isolating me from most of them. A part of me wonders if this moment is exactly what she wanted. For me to be so alone, I'd have no choice but to obey her forever. I refuse to let that be the ending. I drive to a 24-hour diner because it's the only place I can sit without being thrown out. The neon sign flickers as I park. The waitress gives me a look, sympathetic but cautious, as I slide into a booth and order the cheapest cup of coffee they have. I cradle it between my frozen hands like it's the last warm thing on earth. And then, like it's been waiting for this moment all along, the black card slips out of my coat pocket and clinks softly against the table. I freeze. I remember the exact moment my grandfather gave it to me. I was 6, sitting on his lap in the backyard while my parents fought inside. He pressed the card into my small hands and whispered, "One day, sweetheart, you'll need this. Use it only when you have no one else." At the time, I told him I would never need it. My parents loved me, or so I thought. The waitress passes by and glances at the card. Her eyes widen and she quickly looks away. You have one of those?" she murmurs before heading back toward the kitchen, like she shouldn't have said anything. I run my thumb over the smooth metal surface. No name, just numbers engraved in gold. It doesn't even look like a normal bank card. It looks older, heavier. Like a key to something I was never meant to open too early. I pull out my phone, 3% battery left, and search for the bank logo etched on the corner. Cumberland National Trust. Only one branch nearby is open until 6 the next day. The building looks like something out of an old movie, with marble pillars and brass handles. Far too elegant for someone like me. But the card came from Grandfather Henry, and if there was ever a moment I needed whatever he was trying to give me, it's now. My phone dies in my hand. Perfect. I sit there for 2 hours nursing the same coffee. The waitress refills it twice without charging me, probably out of pity. Or maybe she sees something in my face she recognizes. Someone trying desperately not to fall apart. I keep the card hidden under my palm the entire time, afraid someone might see it, afraid of losing the one thing that might save me. Eventually, exhaustion wins. I stumble back to my car and curl up in the back seat, pulling my thin jacket over my knees. The windows fog as my breath turns white, the heater long since given up. My fingers go numb first, then my toes. Fear creeps in, the kind of fear only people with nowhere to sleep understand. I think of Grandfather Henry again, his warm hands, his quiet smile. The way he always looked at me like I mattered. Maybe he knew this day was coming. Maybe he tried to warn me in the only way he could. "Grandpa," I whisper into the cold darkness, "I hope you knew what you were doing." The black card lies against my chest, tucked under the jacket like a heartbeat I'm borrowing. Tomorrow I'll walk into that bank. Tomorrow I'll find out whether this card is worthless, or the one thing that can change everything. For the first time since being thrown out into the snow, I feel a flicker of something warm inside me. Not hope exactly, but possibility. And possibility is enough to survive one more night. The lights inside Cumberland National Trust glow warm against the gray morning as I pull into the nearly empty parking lot, my stomach twisting so hard it feels like I swallowed a stone. I barely slept in the back seat of my car. My fingers are still numb when I grip the strange black card in my pocket, the only thing keeping me from collapsing under the weight of everything that happened last night. I sit there for a minute, engine off, breath fogging the windshield, trying to convince myself that I'm not insane for being here. But then I remember my mother's voice. "You can't do anything on your own," sharp enough to slice through bone. If I don't walk into that bank now, her words will become true. I refuse to let them become true. I open the door and step into the cold. The wind stings my cheeks as I walk toward the towering building with marble columns and brass-framed windows. It looks like the kind of place where real money lives. Old money. The kind of money my parents always pretended we came from, even though our house was financed through loans they always struggled to pay. This building doesn't belong to people like them. It definitely doesn't belong to people like me. Unless my grandfather meant what he said all those years ago. Inside, the air smells faintly of polished wood and winter coats. A receptionist in her 50s looks up from her desk and smiles the kind of polite smile bank workers always give customers they assume don't belong here. "Good morning. How can we help you today?" My voice almost catches. I need to check the balance on an old account. I have the card." I slide it across the counter. The receptionist's smile slips, not rudely, but with recognition. Unexpected recognition. She turns the card over, examining it like it's a relic from another century. "I'll call a manager," she says quietly. A manager? For a balance check? My brain, fried from exhaustion and fear, immediately jumps to the worst conclusions. Maybe the account is closed. Maybe the card is worthless. Maybe I'm about to be escorted out for wasting their time. I sit in one of the leather chairs near the window, folding my freezing hands in my lap. A mother with a toddler walks past me, the child giggling as he tries to grab her scarf. A retired couple sits a few seats away, quietly reviewing a stack of papers. Normal people with normal lives on a normal morning. None of them know I'm homeless. None of them know the reason I'm here is because my parents shoved me out the front door like unwanted mail. 5 minutes pass, then 10. Just when I'm about to convince myself to flee out of pure humiliation, a tall man in a charcoal suit appears in the doorway. He looks like he stepped out of a financial magazine. Sharp haircut, immaculate tie, expression controlled but not unfriendly. "Miss Carrington?" he says, hesitating only long enough to check my ID in his hand. "Yes," I manage. He nods. "I'm Elliot Hayes, the branch manager. Would you come with me? We need to discuss your account privately." My heart slams against my ribs. Privately, that word feels too big, too heavy. I force myself to stand and follow him down a hallway lined with framed photos of the bank's founders, stern men in old-fashioned suits staring down at me like I don't belong. His office smells like cedar and something crisp and expensive. He gestures for me to sit, then closes the door behind us. "Before we proceed," he says, settling behind his desk, "I need to verify your identity." I hand him my driver's license with shaking fingers. He studies it, types something on his computer, and the screen reflects faintly in his glasses, a bright glow against his composed face. His eyebrows rise, only slightly, but I see it. "Miss Carrington," he finally says, "the card you brought in today is one of our legacy accounts. It hasn't been used in many years." He turns the screen toward me, and for a moment, everything inside me stops. Rows of documents, dozens of linked files, account details that look nothing like a simple savings account, and at the top corner of the screen, something that doesn't make sense at all. "It's active?" I whisper. "Yes," Elliot says, "very active, and very well protected." I swallow hard. "Protected from whom?" He pauses. "From anyone but you." The words hit me like a punch. My grandfather wasn't dramatic. He wasn't cryptic. He didn't leave mysteries, except he did. He left this, whatever this is. Elliot pulls up another file, an internal note dated 23 years ago. My eyes widen as I read the name, Henry Carrington, my grandfather. He set up this account when I was only 7. He wrote a directive. "Only accessible by my granddaughter, Lena, and only when she presents the physical legacy card." I feel dizzy. The room seems too small, too bright, too surreal. Elliot leans forward, his voice lowering slightly. "Miss Carrington, before I show you anything else, may I ask why you decided to use the card today?" I look down at my hands. They're trembling again, but I don't lean back or try to hide it. "My parents kicked me out last night," I say quietly. "On Christmas Eve. They didn't even let me take my things. I don't have money for a hotel. I didn't know what else to do." Elliot's expression doesn't change dramatically, but something in his posture softens. "I see." It's 2 small words, but they hold something I haven't heard in a long time. Respect. Or maybe concern. Or maybe compassion. Real compassion from someone who doesn't know me. Someone who doesn't benefit from comforting me. I force myself to stay steady. "I don't even know if there's anything in the account. I just remembered my grandfather said to use it if I had nowhere else to turn." Elliot nods slowly. He was very intentional about that. He clicks into another section on the screen. My stomach twists tighter. The numbers flicker into view. For the first time in hours, I inhale sharply. The breath feels like ice in my lungs. Is that... I can barely form the words. Is that the balance? Elliot doesn't answer. Not immediately. He lets the moment land, lets the truth sit between us. And then he gently rotates the monitor all the way so I can see it fully. But I don't. Not yet. Because I can't bring myself to look. I'm terrified. Terrified it's nothing. Terrified it's something. Terrified of what either possibility means. Finally, I force my eyes to the numbers. And everything inside me folds. I blink rapidly, unable to comprehend the digits, the commas, the length of the balance. My pulse spikes, a roaring in my ears drowning out everything in the room. "No," I whisper. "That can't be right." Elliot's voice is steady. "It is." The air leaves my lungs all at once. My hands fly to my mouth. I gasp like someone pulled me out of deep water. Because the number on the screen isn't small. It isn't even modest. It isn't something I could explain away or rationalize. It's life-changing. It's unreal. It's impossible. I shake my head, breath hitching. My parents, they always said he had nothing. They said he lived off Social Security. They said he couldn't help me even if he wanted to. Elliot folds his hands. Your parents were not given access to this account. Ever. Your grandfather's instructions were explicit. My throat burns. My vision blurs. For years, I believed my grandfather forgot about me. For years, I believed my parents' narrative, that he didn't care, that he was confused, that he didn't love me. But he did. He loved me enough to prepare for the day they would cast me out. I press a trembling hand over my heart. I can feel it pounding, frantic and furious. I don't understand, I whisper. Why me? Why did he do all this for me? Elliot slowly opens a drawer and places a sealed red folder on the desk between us. Because he wanted you to know the truth, he says softly. All of it. I stare at the folder. My grandfather's handwriting covers the top. For Lena. When you are finally free. My chest tightens. Elliot meets my eyes. Miss Carrington, I think you should read this. And with that sentence, my entire life tilts on its axis. Elliot turns the screen toward me slowly, as if he knows the numbers on it might break something open inside me. At first, the rows of digits don't register. My brain tries to make sense of them, but I've never seen numbers that long outside of corporate scandals or tech company valuations on the news. My breath stalls. My pulse skids sideways. For a moment, I genuinely think the monitor must be showing someone else's information. Someone important. Someone powerful. Someone who isn't me. But then Elliot speaks, his voice low and almost reverent. Miss Carrington, this is your account. My heart lurches so hard it hurts. I blink at the screen again. $63.8 million. My hands grip the armrests of the leather chair so tightly my knuckles turn white. The world feels like it's tilting, as if the floor underneath us isn't marble but ice about to crack. There has to be a mistake. I can't even pay for a motel room. I slept in my car last night using a jacket as a blanket. I am the kind of person who measures grocery trips against how many days I can stretch a pack of pasta, and yet here I am staring at more money than my parents have seen in their entire lives. My voice cracks. That can't be real. Elliot doesn't smile, doesn't comfort me, doesn't sugarcoat. He simply nods once, firmly. It's real, and this is only the liquid portion. Only the liquid portion. The phrase makes my stomach swoop. He starts clicking through tabs, each one filled with information that knocks the air out of me. Commercial property deeds, land holdings in 3 counties, stocks in companies I recognize from headlines, a partnership in a robotics firm I've definitely heard about on the news. My grandfather, the quiet man who wore the same sweater for years, who ate canned soup for lunch, who insisted coupons were the cornerstone of a wise life, owned a fortune, more than a fortune, an empire. I'm still staring when Elliot reaches to the side and pulls a red folder from a locked drawer. He sets it gently in front of me like it's something living. This contains the files your grandfather asked us to keep sealed, until you came in with the legacy card. Legacy? That word hits me in the chest. My hands tremble as I open the folder. The first thing inside is a handwritten letter addressed to me in my grandfather's looping script. The sight of his handwriting alone makes my throat burn. But before I can read it, a line of text printed on the inside cover catches my eye. For Lena's eyes only, the truth about your parents. A cold ripple moves up my spine. Why would he... I start. Elliot gently clears his throat. Miss Carrington, your grandfather was very deliberate. You were meant to know everything once you were no longer under their control. Under their control. Hearing someone else say it makes bile rise in my throat. My parents weren't strict. They weren't protective. They were suffocating, manipulative. controlling in ways I could never fully articulate. I turn the page. A timeline appears. Month by month, year by year. Documentation of my grandfather's last decade. Medical reports showing he was mentally competent. Banking notes, legal communications. Every detail carefully recorded in case he ever needed to prove his decisions. My parents always said he was confused, fading, losing touch with reality. They said that was why he never left them anything. Why he didn't want visitors. Why I shouldn't bother him with my presence. Lie after lie after lie. The documents show the truth. He begged them to let me visit him. Begged. My mother intercepted the letters he wrote. The folder contained scanned copies. Letters I never saw. One reads, "My sweet girl, I miss you every day. They won't let me see you. I don't know why, but please remember I love you more than life itself." A tear hits the page before I can stop it. My vision blurs. I grip the folder like it's the only solid thing in the room. "I never got any of these," I whisper, my voice cracking. "I know," Elliot says softly. "Your grandfather suspected they were intercepting them." I turn another page. A legal statement Henry filed after an incident 8 years ago. "If anything happens to me suddenly, investigate Richard and Elaine Carrington first." Seeing my parents' names in black ink under the words "suspected coercion" and "financial manipulation" makes my stomach twist. My grandfather knew. He knew what they were capable of, knew what they did to him, and what they would eventually do to me. I pick up the letter addressed to me. My fingers tremble as I unfold it. "My Lena, if you are reading this, it means they have cast you aside. I hoped it wouldn't happen, but I feared it would. They value control above all else. You must know this truth. None of their words about you were ever real. You were never weak. You were never a burden. You were the best part of this family. Everything I built because I knew you would one day need freedom. Take this chance, my dear girl. Use it to live the life they never allowed you to dream of. You are my legacy. With all my love, Grandpa Henry." I press the letter to my chest. A sob escapes me, raw and painful. For years, I thought he forgot me. I thought I wasn't worth remembering. I was wrong. My parents made sure I believed I was forgettable. They kept me small, quiet, obedient. They shaped my entire sense of self around the lie that I was unwanted. But here, in this folder, is proof of the opposite. Proof that the only person who ever saw me clearly left everything to me because he believed I deserved better. "Why me?" I whisper again. "Why not my father? Why not my brother?" Elliot looks at me with a level of sympathy that feels almost parental. "Because he trusted you. Because he saw their intentions long before you could. And because you were the only person who cared for him without wanting anything in return." I swallow hard. Memories flood me. Sitting in my grandfather's garden while he told me stories, while my parents dismissed him as old-fashioned or irrelevant. I never understood why he always looked at me with such sadness, such knowing. Now I do. I turn another page, more evidence, more lies unraveled, more truth revealed. My father tried to gain power of attorney over Henry when he was hospitalized once. The doctor refused to sign the competency declaration. My mother pressured Henry to invest in family plans involving Michael's failed business. And when Henry refused, they cut ties. Not because they cared for his health, but because they were furious he wouldn't hand them control. My breath shakes as I close the file. What happens now?" I ask. Elliot folds his hands. "Now, Miss Carrington, you decide what you want. But before anything else, there is one final document your grandfather left. It requires your authorization to access it." He places a small biometric scanner on the desk beside an encrypted drive. "This contains the full truth about your family," he says quietly. "And instructions from your grandfather for your future." Instructions. My heartbeat pounds. The room feels too still. "Are you ready?" he asks. Am I? My parents threw me out like trash. They made sure I had nothing. No money, no clothes, no home, no self-worth. And yet the man they dismissed as senile and worthless built an empire and left every piece of it to me. I don't know if I'm ready, but I know I have to be. I place my thumb on the scanner. The light turns green. The encrypted drive begins to unlock, loading files line by line. Elliot watches the screen, his expression tightening. "There's something else," he murmurs, almost to himself. "Something your grandfather didn't want anyone to find until now." The final file loads. Elliot exhales, turns the monitor toward me and says, "Miss Carrington, you need to see this." The encrypted files load line by line, the cursor blinking like a pulse on a heart monitor, steady and unhurried, while my own heartbeat pounds loud enough to drown out the quiet hum of Elliot's office. I try to breathe normally, but it feels like every breath hitched in my chest. When the screen finally stops flickering, Elliot angles the monitor toward me. "Miss Carrington," he says softly, "your grandfather wanted you to see this if he ever feared your parents would harm you, financially, emotionally, or otherwise." The first file opens automatically. A title stretches across the top in bold letters, "For Lena's Eyes Only, a complete record of your parents' actions." My stomach knots. I set my hands in my lap so they don't visibly shake, but I don't think it helps. I click the first entry. A timeline appears. 10 years of dates. 10 years of carefully documented reports, emails, transcripts, and notarized statements. Every entry written or signed by my grandfather. My throat closes slowly, like someone's squeezing it. The first note begins. "My son and his wife have begun attempting to control my financial decisions." I blink, reading it twice. My parents always claimed he was forgetful. "Losing touch with the world," my mother would say, shaking her head with exaggerated pity. My father called him unstable and said I should stop visiting him because it stressed him out. But the tone of this note is steady, clear, sharp. Nothing about it is confused. I scroll. Another entry appears, this one with a scanned doctor's evaluation. Patient is fully competent. No signs of dementia or cognitive impairment. Recommending continued independent living with regular medical check-ins. I feel like falling through the chair. Every story my parents told me collapses like it was built of tissue paper. They said he couldn't manage his money anymore. They said he was embarrassed to see me. They said he didn't recognize me. They said he didn't want visitors. All lies. The next set of files are letters, written in my grandfather's familiar looping handwriting, each addressed to me, each dated during a period when my parents told me he didn't want to see anyone. My breath catches. There are dozens. I click the first one. "My dearest Lena, I've written to you twice without a reply. I assume your parents are not giving you my letters." A sound slips out of me. Half gasp, half wounded noise, the kind I didn't even know I could make. I feel 10 years old again, sitting on my childhood bed wondering why I mattered so little. I click another. "I asked them again today if you could come visit. They said you were too busy. I hope you know I would drop everything to see you if I could." A tear falls onto the desk. I wipe it away quickly, embarrassed, but Elliot remains respectfully silent, as if he's seen grief take many forms and understands this one. Another document loads automatically, this one not a letter but a transcript. Meeting record, Cumberland National Trust. Attending, Henry Carrington, Estate Manager, initials EH, Compliance Officer. My grandfather's voice comes through faintly in the audio file, shaky only because of age, not confusion. "My son and daughter-in-law attempted to have me declared mentally incompetent today. They brought in papers they wanted me to sign. I refused." I stopped the audio, hands trembling harder. My parents tried to take his finances, tried to control him. They did the same thing to me in every way that didn't require a bank signature. "When was this?" I whisper. Elliot clicks to the date. 9 years ago. The year I graduated from high school. The year they forbid me from visiting him for his own good. It wasn't for his good. It was because he stood between them and access to his money. I scroll again. More documents, more proof. A physician's note. Adult children appear motivated by financial gain, not concern for the patient's well-being. Recommend legal barriers be reinforced. My pulse is so loud it thuds in my ears. Elliot shifts slightly in his chair. Your grandfather was very clear that you were the only person he trusted. I swallow hard. Why didn't he tell me any of this? Why didn't he warn me? He tried, Elliot says gently. Your parents cut off all channels of communication. I close my eyes. They didn't just isolate him. They isolated me from him, from the one person who truly loved me. I turn to the next section, labeled Attempted Financial Takeover, Incident Record. Inside are scanned copies of bank statements, legal notices, and a formal report filed by my grandfather. They tried to gain full control of his assets by claiming he was unfit. They demanded the bank release his accounts to them. They even tried to move money into a family-managed trust, with themselves listed as primary beneficiaries. My stomach churns as I read the note my grandfather added beneath the report. Protect Lena from them if anything happens to me. The words burn. I keep scrolling. Another cluster of documents reveals how my parents began portraying him as unstable to their friends, neighbors, the community, poisoning the reputation of the one person who saw straight through them. Emails between my mother and father appear, ones I was never meant to see. Sentences jump out at me like venom. He needs to give us control or he'll waste everything on nonsense. We deserve access. After everything we've done. If Lena keeps visiting him, he might leave her something. Everything finally, painfully, horribly makes sense. The sudden shift in their rules, the guilt-tripping, the coldness, the moments where they forgot to tell me he called, the pressure to distance myself from him. They did it because he loved me, and because they hated that. My throat stings. I scroll again. This time a map pops up. An aerial view with red markings, circles, hand-drawn arrows. Beside it, a typed label, properties to be transferred to Lena under protective trust. There are 10 markers. 10. Not just money, not just stocks. Land, rented buildings, a stake in a robotics company. He built something massive and hid it from the very people who wanted to exploit him. I open the final document in the folder. A note handwritten in faint, shaky ink. My darling Lena, if you are reading this, then what I feared has happened. They have done to you what they tried to do to me. Do not let them back into your life. They will only take and take and take until there is nothing left of you. Use what I've left you to build a life of your own choosing. You have always deserved more than they ever gave you. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you more. But I prepared everything so that when they showed who they truly are, you would finally know who you truly are. Not their child, not their burden, not their failure. My legacy. Henry. I'm shaking so hard I can barely hold the letter. For years I thought I was unwanted, a disappointment, a problem, a burden too heavy for my parents to tolerate. But none of that was true. They weren't pushing me away because I was unlovable. They were pushing me away because they were terrified of what I might inherit, both financially and emotionally. What I might know. Who I might become. The door behind me clicks softly as Elliot stands. There is one more step, he says, voice still gentle. Your grandfather created multiple layers of protection. To access the sealed vault containing the rest of his instructions, legal, financial, and personal, we need your biometric authorization. My head spins. There's more? Yes, he says. Much more. I look at the black card on the desk. The strange weight of it. The way it hums with something like memory. My whole life I believed the story my parents fed me. Today, that story ends, and the real one begins. I straighten in the chair, wiping my tears with the back of my hand. Show me what he left, I say. Elliot nods and powers on the biometric scanner. The future glows on the screen, waiting for me to claim it. Lena walked out of the bank with the red confidential folder pressed tightly to her chest, snowflakes melting against the thin fabric of her sweater. The cold barely registered. Her mind was too full, too loud, bursting at the seams with everything she had just learned. $63 million. Properties, investments, letters her parents stole. A lifetime of truth buried under years of lies. Her entire world had broken open inside a marble office with brass fixtures and gentle lighting. She felt shaky, electrified, weightless in the worst and best way. She reached her beat-up car, slid into the driver's seat, and didn't start the engine. She just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, forehead against the leather. The parking lot around her blurred through the frost gathering on the windows. For a moment she closed her eyes and just breathed. She wasn't broken. She wasn't worthless. She wasn't what her parents said she was. She had proof. But with that proof came a new terror. What now? The black card rested in her pocket, warm from her touch. She pulled it out, running her thumb along the engraved gold numbers. Her grandfather had known. He had prepared for this. He had expected this. And that thought both comforted her and shattered her heart. 10 minutes passed, maybe 20. Eventually, she forced herself upright, wiping her face. She wasn't going to collapse in a bank parking lot, not when she finally had something resembling power. Her phone buzzed suddenly. Unknown number. We need to talk. Her stomach twisted. She blocked it before the fear could get a foothold. She turned the key and drove. The farther she got from the bank, the more surreal everything felt. It was like she was floating above herself, watching a version of her she barely recognized. The Lena who drove to the diner last night was homeless, desperate, shaking in the cold. The Lena leaving Cumberland National Trust was something else entirely. Not rich, not yet, not emotionally, but no longer someone her parents could crush. Eventually, she pulled into the parking lot of a small cafe she used to visit in college. Warm lights, fogged windows, the lingering smell of cinnamon and roasted coffee drifting out the cracked door every time a customer entered. She needed to sit, to think, to breathe like a human being and not a creature running from the wreckage of her own life. Inside, a Christmas tree glowed in the corner, decorated with mismatched ornaments from local schoolchildren. A couple in their 70s sat near the window, laughing gently about something in the newspaper. A barista hummed along to a holiday playlist. Normal. Everything felt so painfully normal. Lena slid into a booth, her hands still trembling as she opened the red folder. The documents inside were organized, neat, curated by someone who loved her enough to plan for a future she didn't know she needed. But this wasn't everything. Elliot had mentioned another meeting, someone else. She checked her phone. A voicemail from the bank. Miss Carrington, this is Elliot. Before you leave town today, please return to the branch. We need to complete the estate disclosures with our senior specialist. It's important. She shut her eyes, exhaling shakily. Important was an understatement. 20 minutes later, she was back in the marble lobby, snow melting off her boots. Elliot met her immediately, his expression more serious than before. He introduced her to a woman with silver hair, warm eyes, and a voice like steady oak. Miss Carrington, she greeted, offering her hand. I'm Marjorie Keene. I managed your grandfather's accounts for 22 years. Lena blinked. You knew him well? Marjorie's gaze softened. He was one of the most thoughtful clients I've ever had. He spoke about you constantly. The words hit so hard Lena almost forgot to breathe. Marjorie led them to a private conference room. Papers were already spread out across the table. Property maps, valuation reports, legal notes, investment summaries, and another box, smaller, locked. This, Marjorie said, touching the lid gently, was left in our care for you, but it required 2 forms of authorization, one from you, one from your grandfather. My grandfather passed, Lena whispered. Marjorie nodded. He provided a pre-recorded authorization video. "We'll use your biometric ID to complete the verification." Lena stared down at the box, her chest tight. This wasn't just money, this was intention, a legacy, protection, love. "Are you ready?" Marjorie asked. Lena nodded, even though she wasn't ready at all. The scanner beeped. A green light flashed. The lock clicked. When Marjorie lifted the lid, Lena felt the air thrum. Inside were keys. Dozens of them, each tagged with a neat handwritten label. A storage facility number, a farmhouse address she didn't recognize, a commercial building, something labeled Carrington Lot Do Not Sell, and a sealed envelope with corporate logos she traced with her finger in disbelief. "What is all this?" "Your grandfather's hidden portfolio," Marjorie explained. "He didn't trust your parents to know about it. He didn't trust anyone but you." Lena felt her throat close. "But they always said he was broke. They always told me he'd mismanaged everything." Marjorie sighed softly. "Your parents tried to take control of his estate a decade ago. When they failed, they turned to misinformation." Misinformation, a polite word for lies. Lena reached into the box, pulling out an envelope labeled Atlas Robotics Partnership. She blinked at it. "I've heard of this company," she whispered. "It's worth several billion now," Marjorie said. "Your grandfather was one of the original private investors. He saved them from bankruptcy in the late 80s. The room tilted. "He never sold any shares?" "No, he left the entire stake to you." Lena had no words. None. Her grandfather wasn't just financially secure, he was brilliant, strategic, quietly powerful in ways her parents never understood. "We estimate your total holdings exceed what you saw on the initial screen," Marjorie continued carefully, "by a significant margin." "How significant?" Lena whispered. Elliot's voice lowered. 8 figures, possibly 9, depending on asset liquidation." A laugh slipped out of her. Not a happy one. A startled, broken, stunned sound. "My parents threw me out with a bag of trash." Neither banker responded. They didn't need to. Lena pressed her palms to her face, breathing through the tremors in her chest. Her parents' last words still echoed in her skull. Useless, weak, worth nothing. But all along, the truth was the opposite. Her grandfather had believed she was worth everything. When she lowered her hands, Marjorie pulled out one more document, thin, delicate, important. "Before his passing," she said, "your grandfather filed a protective clause. In the event your parents, or any party acting on their behalf, attempted to seize your inheritance, we were instructed to alert legal counsel immediately and place security measures on your access." "Legal counsel?" Lena echoed. "Yes. Your grandfather retained an attorney specifically for your future interests, Vivian Rhodes, one of the best in the state." Lena blinked. "Why would I need—" The question broke off because she suddenly understood. Her parents. They always tried to take control of things that weren't theirs, even when she was a child, even when it meant hurting someone. Her grandfather had known they might turn that greed toward her one day. He prepared for a war she didn't know she was living in. Elliot slid a sleek black business card across the table. "Vivian Rhodes, Eskian, Inheritance Protection and High-Risk Asset Disputes." Lena picked it up, the card heavier than it looked. "Call her," Marjorie said gently. "She'll guide you through the next steps." "Next steps," Lena repeated faintly. There are more steps?" Elliot nodded, his gaze steady. "Your parents will likely attempt something once they realize they no longer control you, especially if they ever learned about this account." A chill ran across her skin. "You don't think they already suspect something?" "I think," Elliot said carefully, "your arrival at the bank may trigger movement on their end." Her phone buzzed in her pocket. "Unknown number, we heard you stopped by the bank. Call us now." Her blood turned to ice. Elliot's expression hardened. "Miss Carrington, do not speak to them. Not directly. Not through intermediaries. Not at all. Lena swallowed. What do I say if they reach me again? Marjorie answered calmly. You say nothing. Lena closed the folder gently. She didn't feel powerless anymore. Terrified, yes. Overwhelmed, absolutely. But powerless, no. Her grandfather had given her a path out of the life her parents tried to trap her in. He had laid out the truth, brick by brick, for her to follow. She stood. Set the meeting, she said, gripping Vivian's card. I'm ready. Elliot nodded once approvingly, and as Lena walked out of the bank into the falling snow, the world didn't feel so impossible anymore. Hard, yes. Dangerous, absolutely. But she finally had something worth fighting for. Her life, her freedom, her future, and she wasn't giving any of it back. I'm sitting in my car outside the cafe with Vivian's business card still warm in my hand, the world tilting in slow circles around me. The folder on the passenger seat holds more truth than I've ever had in my entire life, and yet all I can think about is how empty I feel. Not of hope, of energy, of breath, of strength. My body feels like it's running on fumes after 2 nights of fear and no sleep. I'm telling myself to move, to stand, to get out of the car and drink something with sugar in it, but my limbs feel heavy and uncooperative. When I finally pull the door open, my legs wobble. I step out onto the sidewalk and the cold air steals whatever is left of my balance. My vision tunnels. The world shifts sideways. I hear a door chime behind me, and before I can brace myself, everything swoops. A pair of hands catches my arms before I hit the ground. Hey, hey, easy, you okay? The voice is deep, steady, and startlingly calm. I blink up and see a man with warm brown eyes, a dark coat, a doctor's ID still clipped to his pocket like he just walked out of a hospital shift. His gaze is focused, assessing in a way that's frighteningly competent. I'm fine, I lie. You're not fine, he answers, helping me toward a booth inside the cafe. You nearly fainted. He signals the barista without breaking eye contact with me. Water and orange juice, please. I sink into the seat, embarrassed, dizzy, my heart thudding against my ribs. He slides into the booth across from me, watching carefully. I'm Marcus, he says gently. Dr. Marcus Hale, cardiologist. Are you sure you're all right? I nod, even though my hands are trembling. Just tired. A lot's happened. His brow furrows. He doesn't ask questions immediately, just waits, letting me breathe. There's something disarming about him, not comforting exactly, but grounding, like he's used to talking people off emotional ledges. The drinks arrive. I take a sip of the orange juice, the sugar hitting my bloodstream like a jolt. Thank you, I whisper. Marcus nods. Do you have someone you can call? A friend? Family? A bitter laugh slips out. Not family. He doesn't push. Then someone else? I shake my head. My throat tightens. Maybe it's the exhaustion. Maybe it's the fact that, for once, someone is asking if I have support instead of telling me I'm a burden. He leans forward slightly. Look, I don't know what happened to you, but you look like someone who hasn't eaten or slept in too long, and you're shaking like you're freezing. I slept in my car last night, I admit quietly. His expression softens with something like sorrow. Then let me ask a different question. Are you safe now? The calmness in his voice catches me off guard. Because am I? I'm not sure anymore. I thought my new apartment would be a fresh start. Then I thought being thrown out of my parents' house would be the worst thing that could happen. Then I found out everything I knew about my grandfather was a lie. Now the truth sits heavy in my bag, and the danger feels close. Too close. I don't know, I whisper. Marcus doesn't look shocked the way some people would. He just nods once, as if confirming a diagnosis he already suspected. All right, tell me what you need. The question unravels something inside me. No one's ever asked me that. Not my parents, not my brother, not anyone who was supposed to care. My throat tightens. I need a place to think. I need to figure out my next steps. Then let's start with getting you warm and fed, he says. Everything else can come afterward. He signals for a menu even though I didn't ask for one. I try to protest, but he holds up a hand. I'm not doing this out of pity, he says gently. You just nearly collapsed. Let a doctor worry about you for 10 minutes. I nod because arguing feels impossible. As I sip the orange juice, Marcus studies me with the kind of quiet attention that feels more like a blanket than an interrogation. You look like someone who's carrying too much by yourself, he murmurs. I swallow hard. My parents kicked me out, last night. His face shifts, anger flickering briefly before he reins it back. I'm sorry, he says softly. No one deserves that. The simplicity of the statement makes my eyes sting. Because that's what I needed to hear last night. That I didn't deserve it. Not silence, not coldness, not the sound of the deadbolt sliding into place while snow soaked my socks. I take another shaky breath. They threw out a trash bag and said I could take whatever fit. It wasn't even my stuff. Marcus exhales sharply through his nose. That's cruel. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He doesn't make excuses for them. He doesn't say they were stressed or emotional. He calls it what it is, cruel. And somehow, hearing someone else name it makes the truth settle deeper in my bones. When the food arrives, scrambled eggs and toast, my hands tremble again. Marcus notices. Eat slowly, he says. Your blood sugar tanked. I nod and take a bite. Warmth spreads through my chest, thawing something I didn't realize had frozen. Do you have a place to stay tonight? He asks, once I've eaten enough to feel human again. I'll figure something out, I mumble, even though I have no idea where I'll go. He sighs quietly, not frustrated, more like concerned. I know you don't know me, and I'm not asking for details you're not ready to share. But if you need somewhere safe, the hospital lobby is open 24/7. Security is always present. You won't be alone. I look up at him, surprised. Why are you being so nice to me? He smiles softly, but it's a sad smile. Because 5 years ago, someone had to be kind to me when my world collapsed, and it saved my life. His grief is quiet, but unmistakable. A woman he loved. Gone. The shadow of her still sitting beside him in the booth. I'm sorry, I whisper. Me too, he says quietly, but kindness doesn't have to end with the people we lose. Silence settles between us, not awkward, not heavy, just real. When I finish eating, I gather my things to leave, but Marcus stops me with a gentle touch on my sleeve. Wait. He pulls a pen from his coat pocket and writes something on a napkin. His handwriting is steady, neat. If anything happens, if you feel unsafe, or dizzy again, or just need someone to check in, call me. No pressure, no expectations. I stare at the napkin. His name and number look unreal. I don't want to drag anyone into my mess, I whisper. He stands as I do, adjusting his coat. Lena, sometimes life throws us into storms we didn't ask for. Letting someone stand next to you isn't dragging them in. It's surviving. My throat tightens again. I slip the napkin into my pocket next to my grandfather's black card. Thank you, I breathe. He holds the door open for me. Take care of yourself, and please, be careful. I nod and step into the cold. Snowflakes swirl around me as I walk back to my car. The warmth of the cafe fades behind me, but something else remains, a steadiness I didn't have before. When I reach the driver's seat, my phone buzzes again. A voicemail from Vivian Rhodes. My legal appointment is set for tomorrow. Urgent, she said. Come early. In the back seat, I see the red folder. The truth about my parents, my grandfather, my inheritance, my life. For the first time in years, I feel the faintest spark of strength inside me. I'm not alone anymore, maybe for the first time ever, and that changes everything. The first thing I see when I wake up is the glowing notification on my dead phone screen. 5 missed calls, 3 voicemails, 2 emails from addresses I don't recognize. For one blissful second, I forget everything. My parents, the court paperwork Vivian prepared, the truth about the inheritance, but then the dread slides down my spine like ice water. I turn the phone back on. The messages load slowly. Unknown email. You stole something that belongs to us. Call immediately. Unknown email number 2. We know what your grandfather left you. You can't hide from your own family. My breath catches. My palms grow slick. They know. Somehow they know. I forward everything to Vivian with shaking fingers. She replies almost instantly. Block all unknown contacts. Do not respond. This is escalation. I stare at the phone, bile rising in my throat. They aren't asking if I'm safe. They aren't shocked I'm homeless. They aren't apologizing. They're demanding, accusing, threatening. My parents didn't lose a daughter. They lost control. My hands shake as I throw on clothes and grab the folder from the floor. Every step feels unsteady, like I'm walking into a storm I barely understand. Before leaving the hotel room, my phone buzzes again. Unknown number. You will regret not cooperating. My stomach twists. I block it instantly and rush outside. The cold slaps me in the face as I hurry toward my car, eyes darting across the parking lot. And that's when I see it again. The gray sedan, the same one from yesterday, same tinted windows, same slow, predatory presence. It sits 2 rows away, engine idling, exhaust ghosting into the winter air. My pulse spikes. I duck into my car and lock the doors. I try not to look, but my eyes flick back anyway. The sedan doesn't move, doesn't drive away. It just waits. I breathe through my panic long enough to call Vivian. She answers on the second ring. Tell me everything. I describe the calls, the emails, the car. Your parents hired someone, she says flatly. That's a private investigator. He's tailing you. Document everything. We can use it in court. I grip the steering wheel tighter. Why would they send someone after me? Because they're desperate, Vivian replies. They wanted control of your grandfather's estate for years. Now they know you're beyond their reach. I whisper, what do I do? You meet me at the office, she says. Today. Bring everything. I pull out of the parking lot and try to swallow my fear, but my chest won't loosen. Every turn, I check the rearview mirror. Every time I slow down, the sedan slows too. My hands shake so violently I almost miss my exit. My phone buzzes again. Marcus. Hey, you okay? You sounded tense yesterday. I exhale a trembling breath and type back with stiff fingers. I think I'm being followed, he calls immediately. Lena, where are you? Are you safe? No, I whisper, because it's the first time I've admitted it aloud. I don't think I am. Stay on the phone, Marcus says. I'm heading toward my office at the hospital. Tell me exactly where you are. I follow his voice, steady and calm, until I finally pull into his hospital's parking lot. The sedan turns at the corner but doesn't enter. It waits across the street. Marcus meets me at the entrance. The moment he sees my face, he steps closer, lowering his voice. That car again? I nod. It's been following me all morning. He looks over my shoulder and sees the sedan. His jaw tightens. They're not bothering with subtlety. He walks me inside, stays nearby while I sit in the lobby, and only leaves when I assure him I'm calling Vivian next. His hand brushes mine before stepping away. You're not handling this alone, he murmurs. Not anymore. My chest tightens in a different way. Less fear, more something warm and unfamiliar. Then I head to Vivian's. Her office looks like the headquarters of a quiet, controlled storm. Glass walls, polished steel, precise movements. Vivian greets me with a steady expression, but the second she sees the screenshots, a spark ignites behind her eyes. This is harassment, she says. This is stalking. This is intimidation. We're responding aggressively. She lays out a plan like a general drawing battle lines. Restraining orders, cease and desist letters, criminal complaints. She calls a security consultant who arrives 10 minutes later and reviews the photos of the sedan. Professional, he says, not some amateur. He's reporting back to someone. My parents. Of course it's them. Next, Vivian opens a thick binder she's been preparing since yesterday. This morning, she says, your parents filed an emergency petition with the court. My stomach drops. What kind of petition? They're trying to claim you are mentally unstable and unfit to control assets. The world tilts. What? I choke out. They're saying I'm... Vivian taps the page. Predictable tactic. They're attempting to build a narrative. I stare at the words on the page, my name next to phrases like delusional tendencies and emotional instability and concerns for her decision-making. A cold shiver runs down my spine. My entire life, I whisper. They said those things to me. Exactly, Vivian replies. They groomed you to believe it so they could weaponize it now. My eyes burn. Every memory with them suddenly feels sharper, clearer, more sinister. Vivian places a hand over mine, firm but gentle. We will destroy this petition. I nod, even though my throat is tight. We go over documents, messages, evidence, every lie they told, every threat they made. Vivian gathers everything into a binder labeled L. Carrington, abuse file. It's time you see your life clearly, she says. No more fog. Her confidence is a buoy in a sea of panic. The meeting ends with instructions. Stay in public places, document everything, avoid being alone at night. As I leave her office, the sky is darkening, the early winter sunset casting long shadows across the street. My breath fogs in the cold air. I pull my coat tighter around me. Halfway to my car, I see movement to my right, the gray sedan, parked at the corner, engine running, lights off, watching. I freeze, panic skittering through my veins. Before fear can swallow me, a voice calls out, "Lena!" I jump, turning toward the sound. Marcus stands across the sidewalk, coat half-zipped, keys in his hand. "I thought I'd swing by and check," he says softly. "You didn't answer my last text." The relief is so immediate and overwhelming, my knees nearly buckle. Marcus follows my gaze, sees the sedan, and steps closer, his expression darkening. "That's him," I whisper. "The one following me." Marcus doesn't hesitate. He pulls out his phone and snaps a photo. Then he moves in front of me, protective, shoulders rigid. "You are not touching her," he says under his breath. Not loud enough for the driver, but loud enough for me to hear, to feel safe. The sedan finally pulls away, melting into traffic like a ghost. I sag against my car door, heart hammering wildly. Marcus puts a steady hand on my shoulder. "You need backup. And you have it. Whatever this is, you're not facing it alone." I swallow hard, fighting tears. "Why?" I whisper. "Why are you doing this for me?" He studies me with quiet intensity. "Because you deserve someone in your corner, and because I care." The words break something open inside me, something brittle, fragile, long abandoned. I nod, unable to speak. He gives my shoulder a gentle squeeze before stepping back. "Go home," he says softly. "Lock your doors. Text me when you're inside. If anything feels off, you call me, immediately." I promise I will. But when I get back to my hotel room, there's a package at my door. No return address, no label, just a plain brown box. My stomach churns. I pick it up with 2 fingers like it might explode. Inside, there's no object, just a single sheet of paper. You can't hide. We'll get back what belongs to us. My hands tremble so hard I almost drop it. I text the photo to Vivian. Her response is immediate. "He's escalating. We're filing for an emergency restraining order tomorrow morning. Lock your door. Do not open anything else." I sit on the edge of the bed, breathing in short, sharp bursts, the note crumpled in my fist. For the first time, I understand something terrifying. My parents aren't going to stop, but neither am I. Not anymore. The judge's gavel hits the bench with a sharp crack that echoes through the courtroom, and suddenly every molecule of air feels too thick to breathe. I grip the edge of the table so tightly my fingers ache. Vivian stands beside me, calm and terrifying in her navy suit, her presence radiating the kind of controlled power my parents never imagined I'd have on my side. Across the aisle, my mother adjusts her pearl necklace with a trembling hand while my father stares at me like I'm a stain he can scrub off the family name. They look smaller than I remember, desperate, cornered, and still somehow arrogant enough to think they can win. "All parties are present," the judge says. His voice is clipped, like he's already annoyed. This is the emergency hearing concerning the petition filed by Richard and Elaine Carrington regarding the mental fitness of their daughter, Lena Carrington. My father sits straighter, smoothing his tie. My mother puts on her trembling lip, ready to weaponize tears. I brace myself. Their attorney, a thin, sharp-featured woman who looks like she eats broken rules for breakfast, steps forward first. "Your Honor, we are here today out of deep concern for our daughter. She has displayed increasingly erratic behavior, made impulsive financial decisions, and—" "That's a lie," I whisper, but Vivian touches my arm lightly. "Wait." "And has recently gained access to funds set up by her grandfather while in an emotionally unstable condition," the attorney continues. "We fear she is being manipulated by outside influences and is not mentally capable of managing such assets." My mother dabs at her eyes delicately. Fake. All of it. Vivian stands, her movements precise. "Your Honor, we are prepared to respond to all allegations, including evidence of stalking, harassment, and financial manipulation committed by the petitioners." The judge's gaze sharpens. "Proceed." Vivian begins with a stack of documents. First, medical reports from Mr. Henry Carrington's physicians, confirming he was fully competent when he established the legacy trust for my client. She hands them to the bailiff. My parents stiffen. "And next," Vivian continues, "security footage from Cumberland National Trust from 9 years ago, showing the petitioners attempting to coerce an elderly man into signing over control of his estate." My father jerks upright. My mother gasps softly. Their attorney tries to object, but the judge silences her with a raised hand. The footage plays on the courtroom monitor. There's my father, face twisted with frustration, pointing at a stack of papers. My mother hovering behind him, her lips thin with anger. And my grandfather, calm but unyielding, refusing to sign anything. The courtroom is dead silent. Vivian continues. "We also have email correspondence from the petitioners to various third parties attempting to frame Mr. Carrington as mentally incompetent. These emails contain statements such as, and I quote, 'He's old. Who's going to believe him?' My father's jaw clenches. My mother's face turns pale. And finally, Vivian says, pulling out a printed transcript, we have the letters Mr. Carrington wrote to my client, letters her parents intercepted and concealed. She reads one aloud. My grandfather's voice on paper feels like a hand on my heart. My sweet girl, I miss you. They won't let you visit. I am so sorry. Please remember I love you. I cover my mouth with my hand. The judge's expression softens almost imperceptibly. Then Vivian deals the blow that breaks everything open. There is also evidence that the petitioners hired a private investigator to follow my client, including footage of the same vehicle appearing outside her hotel and trailing her on multiple occasions. She gestures to the screen again as images flash, my own photos of the gray sedan. My father bursts forward suddenly, slamming his hands on the table. That is taken out of context, the judge slams his gavel. One more outburst, and you will be removed. My father's chest heaves as he sinks back into his seat, eyes burning with fury. Your Honor, Vivian says, it is clear the petitioners are not concerned parents. They are individuals attempting to regain access to an estate they failed to seize from the rightful beneficiary. The opposing attorney stands, but even she looks rattled. Your Honor, we believe— You believe nothing with evidence to support it, the judge snaps, rubbing his forehead. He glances at the documents, then at me. His next words feel like oxygen. Petition denied. My breath rushes out in a shaky gasp. The judge continues, voice firmer now. Furthermore, due to the documented harassment, stalking, and attempted coercion, this court issues a temporary restraining order against Richard and Elaine Carrington, effective immediately. My mother's face crumples. My father goes scarlet. And, the judge adds sharply, I will be recommending this case be reviewed by criminal investigators for potential charges. My parents both whip their heads toward me, outrage written across their faces. Their attorney looks ready to sink through the floor. Vivian nods once, satisfied. Thank you, Your Honor. We exit the courtroom, and I lean against the wall outside, shaking. Relief and terror battle inside my chest. The threat is contained but not dead. Marcus appears in the hallway like he was waiting for this moment. He steps toward me slowly, as if unsure whether he's allowed to touch me. I don't realize I'm crying until he brushes a tear from my cheek. You did it, he murmurs. You stood up to them. I feel like I'm going to collapse, I admit. You're allowed to, he says softly. Just not alone. I let out a trembling breath. They aren't going to stop. No, he agrees. But now they have consequences chasing them, and you have people standing between you and them. Vivian steps out, her heels clicking decisively. Lena, we're not finished. There's still a long process ahead. But today you won, and you're safe for the moment. Safe, a word I haven't felt in years. Marcus takes my hand gently. Come on, let me walk you to your car. We step outside into the brittle winter air. The gray sedan is nowhere in sight today. Maybe, finally, the law scared them back into whatever shadows they came from. But as I reach my car door, my phone buzzes again. A new message. No number, no name. Enjoy your freedom while it lasts. My blood runs cold. Marcus sees my expression and takes the phone from my hand. When he reads the message, his jaw tightens in a way that sends fear and comfort warring inside me. He looks up slowly. They're not done, he says. Neither am I think. Not anymore. He hands me back my phone. We'll tell Vivian. We'll file it. We'll fight everything they throw. I nod, swallowing hard. I survived the hearing. I survived the exposure of a decade of lies. And with every new threat, every new attempt to pull me back under their control, something inside me hardens. My parents started a war, but I'm finally learning how to fight. The snow falls heavier the next morning, blanketing the streets in a cold, muffling quiet that somehow makes everything feel more dangerous. I stand at my hotel window, watching the flakes drift past the street lamps, my stomach tight with dread. The victory in court yesterday should have made me feel triumphant, but instead the silence after the storm feels like a warning. My parents lost their petition. They were exposed, cornered, and people like them only lash out harder when they're backed against a wall. My phone buzzes with a text from Vivian. Police found evidence the PI tampered with your mail. Meeting at my office at 10. Don't come alone. Stay visible. I stare at those words longer than I should. Don't come alone. It shouldn't make me emotional, but it does. Someone is thinking about my safety. Not in a controlling way, not in a guilt-tripping way, just care. A second text comes through. Marcus. Good morning. Are you up? How are you feeling? I can drive you to Vivian's if you want. I exhale slowly, my chest loosening. I type back before I can overthink it. Yes, please. By 9:30, he's knocking gently on my hotel door. When I open it, he takes one look at me and frowns. You didn't sleep again, he says softly. Hard to sleep when someone may be trying to break into my life. He doesn't hesitate. He lifts his hand and squeezes my shoulder. Let's go. The drive to Vivian's office is quiet at first. The world outside is cold and untouched. But inside the car, the warm air and faint scent of his cedar cologne make the anxiety recede just enough for me to speak. Did you ever feel trapped? I ask. Like something was happening to your life and no matter what you did, it kept getting worse? Marcus watches the icy road, his jaw tightening. Every day for months after Laura died. Your wife, I whisper. My fiancé, he corrects gently. She was sick for a long time. I spent so many nights thinking I was losing more than just her. I felt like I was losing myself. I watch him closely. He's not saying this to draw attention or sympathy. He's offering honesty, connection, a bridge. I'm sorry, I say quietly. He nods, eyes never leaving the road. It broke me, but I survived. You will too. The words settle in my chest like warm stones. Vivian's office is buzzing when we arrive, phones ringing, papers stacking, assistants rushing purposefully. Something shifted overnight, something big. Vivian opens the door before we can knock. Good, you're both here, come in. She looks more intense than usual, which is saying something. I sit while Marcus stands nearby, leaning against the bookshelf like my unspoken protector. Vivian wastes no time. The private investigator your parents hired? He was arrested this morning. I blink. Arrested? For trespassing, tampering with personal mail, attempted coercion, and tracking your vehicle without consent. I stare at her, stunned. He confessed to everything, she continues, and he gave names. Your parents paid him in cash from a separate account to avoid a paper trail. My stomach flips. They're caught then? Vivian lifts a hand. It's not that simple. The PI is cooperating to lessen his charges. But he claims your parents received a tip-off about your inheritance months ago. Marcus shifts behind me. From who? Someone inside the bank, Vivian says. Someone who violated confidentiality rules. We're working with the bank now to identify the source. I grip the arms of the chair. So they've been planning this whole time? Since the moment they suspected you might have anything of value. My throat tightens. And throwing me out? That was part of the plan? Vivian nods grimly. They needed you vulnerable. They needed to control the narrative. If you appeared unstable or homeless, they could argue you were unfit to handle assets. It was all strategic. A wave of nausea rolls through me. They were trying to force you into a corner, Vivian finishes softly, to reclaim what they believed should have been theirs. I cover my face with my hands. Beside me, Marcus steps closer, resting a hand at the back of my chair. Then what do we do now? He asks Vivian. She gestures to a stack of documents. We go on offense. Her voice turns sharp, powerful. We file for a permanent restraining order. We file harassment charges. We file a civil suit for damages, including emotional distress, stalking, defamation, and attempted asset theft. And we open a criminal negligence investigation. My eyes widen. All of that? All of that, Vivian confirms. We overwhelm them legally before they can regroup. She hands me another document, this one bearing the seal of the county court. And there's something else, she adds, lowering her voice. The judge from yesterday has expedited your petition for emergency protection under the Family Harassment and Abuse Act. He saw the PI's arrest report. I swallow hard. What does that mean? It means the court believes you're in danger, she says, and they're acting fast to shield you. I nod slowly. It feels surreal to be protected by systems I always believed would fail me. Then, an unexpected question slips from my mouth. Will they go to jail? Vivian's expression turns steel hard. If the investigation continues this direction, yes. Marcus exhales, relief and anger mixing on his face. Good. But then Vivian softens, studying me. Lena, she says gently, are you ready for that possibility? I sit quietly, considering it. Jail, my parents, behind bars. Part of me recoils. They're still my parents. They raised me, fed me, spoke the words, I love you, even if they never meant them the way normal parents do. But another part of me, the part they tried to crush, knows the truth. If I don't stop them, They'll never stop me. Yes, I whisper. I'm ready. Vivian nods and stands. Good, then we move forward. Inside the office, everything feels strong, actionable, controlled. Outside, the storm is still waiting. Hours later, when Marcus drives me back to my hotel, the wind howls against the windshield. I feel drained, hollowed out, but strangely steadier. Vivian has a plan. The judge believes me. The PI confessed. And Marcus, he's becoming a constant I didn't know I needed. When he pulls into the hotel lot, he turns to me with a seriousness that makes my heart dip. You shouldn't stay here tonight, he says. It's okay, I begin, but he shakes his head. No, it isn't. His voice is calm but firm. Someone left a package at your door yesterday. That means they know where you sleep. A shiver crawls up my spine. Come stay at my place, he says gently. Just for tonight. I have security cameras, a doorman, and a 24-hour desk. You'll be safe. My heart twists. Not with fear, something else, something warm and frightening. I don't want to be a burden, I whisper. He steps closer, voice soft. Lena, you're not a burden. You're someone I care about. Deeply. My breath catches. He holds out his hand. Come with me. And for the first time in my life, I reach for safety instead of running from fear. Yes, I whisper, slipping my fingers into his. I'll come. The elevator doors slide open with a soft chime, and warm light spills into the hallway as Marcus leads me toward his apartment. My body feels heavy with exhaustion, nerves, and the lingering adrenaline of the last 48 hours. But there's also an unfamiliar sense of safety blooming in my chest. His hand is still wrapped around mine. Not tight, not possessive, just steady, like he's anchoring me to the moment so I don't drift back into fear. His apartment is on the top floor of a modern building overlooking the river. When he unlocks the door and steps aside to let me enter first, I'm met with soft lighting, polished wood floors, and the faint scent of cedar and something warm and clean, like laundry just out of the dryer. It feels nothing like the homes I grew up in or the house my parents curated for appearances. This space feels lived in, safe, human. You can take the guest room, he says gently, nodding toward a hallway. Fresh sheets, towels in the closet, and the door locks from the inside. The last part hits me harder than it should. The idea of having a lock I control, a door no one can open without my permission. I nod, swallowing the lump in my throat. Thank you, I whisper. He gives a soft smile. You don't have to thank me for wanting you safe. I set my bag down, suddenly aware of how little I own. A few clothes, the red folder, my grandfather's card, the napkin with Marcus's number. My whole life distilled into a motel-sized pile. He disappears into the kitchen and returns with 2 mugs of chamomile tea. Drink, he says, gently pushing one into my hands. It'll help. I sink into the couch, letting the heat seep into my palms. Outside, the snow is still falling, catching the glow of the city lights as it drifts past the tall windows. The world feels quiet and distant, like I'm viewing it through glass instead of being crushed by it for once. Marcus sits beside me, leaving a respectful space between us. What Vivian said today, he begins, about your parents planning this for months. Does it make things clearer? A bitter laugh escapes me. Clearer, yes. Less painful, no. He nods. What hurts the most? I stare into my tea, watching the steam curl upward. That I kept trying, I whisper. I kept giving them chances, believing if I tried harder they'd be proud or loving or something. And the whole time they were planning to strip me of the only thing my grandfather entrusted to me. Marcus doesn't rush to fill the silence. He waits, letting me find the words. I always thought I was the problem, I say softly. That if I changed enough, they'd finally treat me like a daughter. But now I know they only valued me if I had something they wanted. He turned slightly toward me, his voice low and certain. That's not love, Lena. That's ownership. That's control. And you didn't deserve any of it. My breath shakes. Why didn't they love me? Why was their love always conditional? Because they're broken, Marcus says gently. Not you. You were just the easiest target. The truth of it sits heavily in my chest. I lean back against the couch, closing my eyes. Can I ask you something? Marcus murmurs. I nod. When this is over, what do you want your life to look like? I open my eyes slowly. The question is simple, but it hits me like a tidal wave. No one's ever asked what I want. My parents only cared what I could do for them. My grandfather asked once, but I was too young to know how to answer. Now? I don't know, I admit. I've never imagined a future that wasn't shaped by surviving them. Marcus shifts closer, not touching, just offering presence. Maybe, he says softly, it's time to imagine one now. The warmth that spreads through me isn't just from the tea. It feels like possibility, fragile but real. After a while, he stands. You should rest, he says gently. It's been an unbelievably exhausting week. I nod and follow him down the hall to the guest room. The soft lamplight, the neutral colors, the neatly folded blanket at the foot of the bed. It all feels too kind, too gentle, for the chaos inside my chest. Before he leaves the doorway, I speak. Marcus? He pauses. Yeah? Why are you doing all this? Really? He meets my gaze without flinching. Because I don't want to see someone good get crushed by people who should have protected her. And because... His voice dips, honest and vulnerable. Because I care about you more than I should, considering how fast this is happening. My breath catches. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I'm ready for more. But the truth is there, glowing between us. I don't want him to go. Stay with me, I whisper before I can rethink it. Just for a minute. I don't want to be alone. He hesitates, but only for a heartbeat. Then he steps inside and sits on the edge of the bed. His presence is calm, steady. He doesn't reach for me, he doesn't crowd me, he simply stays. After a few moments, I lie down, and he adjusts the blanket around me like it's the most natural thing in the world. You're safe, he murmurs. Sleep. For the first time in nights, I do. I wake hours later, disoriented and blinking at the soft morning light filtering through the curtains. Marcus is gone from the room, but I can hear faint clinking from the kitchen. The smell of coffee drifts through the air. I stretch, feeling strangely rested, until my phone buzzes. A message. From my mother. It's only 4 words. You've made a mistake. My stomach rolls. I forward it to Vivian instantly. Her reply comes within seconds. We need to meet today. Something just changed. My pulse quickens. I step out into the hallway where Marcus is pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He looks up and smiles softly. Morning, sleep okay? But his smile fades the second he sees my face. What happened? I hand him the phone and he reads the message slowly. His jaw tightens. They're shifting to a new tactic, he says quietly. That's a warning. I nod, swallowing hard. I don't know what they're planning, I whisper, but I can feel it. He sets the mug down and steps closer, his voice steady. Then we'll face it together. And for the first time in my life, the word together doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like hope. The conference room at Vivian's office is already buzzing when Marcus and I arrive. But the moment Vivian sees us step inside, she shuts the door and lowers her voice to a tone that raises every hair on my arms. Your parents made their next move. My pulse jumps. What did they do now? Vivian spreads a series of documents across the table. Printouts, screenshots, legal forms. The atmosphere feels heavier today, darker. Like the storm that's been building for weeks is finally starting to crack open. They filed a petition with family court claiming you exploited a vulnerable elder, she says calmly. Too calmly. I grab the back of a chair to steady myself. What? They're accusing you of manipulating your grandfather for financial gain, she continues, claiming you coerced him into leaving you the estate. That's insane, I breathe. I didn't even know he had an estate. Yes, Vivian cuts in, but truth doesn't matter to them. Control does. And this strategy is designed to muddy the waters and trigger an investigation. Marcus steps closer to me, bracing my back with a supportive hand. They're trying to weaponize the system again. Vivian nods. This is their most aggressive move yet, and the most dangerous. My head spins. How is this even possible? Because the petition triggers automatic review, she says, meaning social services and the state could open an inquiry into your grandfather's medical records, financial activity, and potentially your actions. I grip the edge of the table, feeling the world tilt. I didn't do anything wrong. Of course you didn't, Vivian says firmly, and we're going to prove it. But first, she lifts a thin folder from the pile and hands it to me. These are the emails your parents sent to their attorney last night. We subpoenaed them. I open the folder. The words blur for a second before snapping into sharp, brutal focus. She'll break under pressure. She always did. Once the investigation starts, she'll crumble. We need her unstable. We need her emotional. We need her alone. My breath catches in my throat. They wrote those words. About me, their daughter. My hands shake as I clutch the papers. Marcus takes them from me gently before they slip from my grasp. Vivian presses on, voice sharper now. They are actively discussing ways to make you appear mentally unfit, including sending people to observe your behavior in public places. My stomach twists. They're trying to bait me. Yes, Vivian says. They want you to snap, break down, anything that can be used against you. A cold chill sweeps up my spine. Every shadow, every set of footsteps behind me, every silent car. Had any of it been coincidence? Vivian leans forward, voice low and intense. Listen carefully, Lena. You cannot react to anything, not in public, not online, not in private messages. They want you emotional, don't give them what they want. I nod slowly, but terror churns in my chest. Is this supposed to scare me into giving up? I whisper. Yes, she says, and because you didn't give up, they escalated. Marcus jumps in, jaw tense. What if they try something physical? The PI was bad enough. Vivian lifts a hand. We're maximizing your legal protection. But there's another piece, something you need to see. She opens a sealed envelope and pulls out a USB drive. She plugs it into the projector. A video appears on the screen. My grandfather. Frailer than I remember. Sitting in a wooden chair near the old farmhouse window. The timestamp reads 3 months before he died. A lump forms in my throat. He begins speaking slowly, voice raspy but clear. If you're watching this, my dear Lena, then the time has come. Marcus moves closer, his hand finding mine. Vivian stands beside the table, silent. My grandfather continues. I know your parents. I know what they did to you. I know how they treated you and what they want from me. And from you. That is why I have done everything quietly. That is why this account and the properties are in your name and no one else's. My throat tightens painfully. You were the only one who ever visited without wanting something. You were the only one who spoke to me like a human being instead of a wallet. Tears prick the corners of my eyes. I am leaving these things to you because you have a good heart, and you will use these resources to build a life free of the chains they put on you. I clamp a hand over my mouth, stifling a sob. And if they challenge this, if they try to claim manipulation, know this. I kept all records, all signatures, all medical evaluations proving my competency. The bank has everything. Vivian nods grimly. My grandfather gives a weak but warm smile. I love you, girl. Do not let them crush you anymore. The video ends. The silence that follows is suffocating. Then something inside me cracks. Not with fear this time, but with something fierce and rising. I wipe my face, breathing shakily, and look up at Vivian. They can't win. Not after everything he did to protect me. Not after what they've done. Vivian nods in approval. Good. Because it's time you start fighting with the same strategy he used, quietly, methodically, and with truth. Marcus squeezes my hand, his voice low. I'm with you, every step of this. I look at him, really look at him. The steady strength, the worry, the way he's shown up without question. Something moves in my chest I've been too afraid to acknowledge. Thank you, I whisper. Meeting adjourned, Vivian walks us to the elevator. You'll need increased escort, she says. Don't go anywhere alone, not even a grocery store, and keep your phone on at all times. Escort, I echo. She nods. Security detail. The court will approve temporary protection until we finish this. The elevator doors slide open and Marcus steps inside with me. As they close, I suddenly feel the urge to ask something I've never asked anyone before. Marcus, I say quietly, if this gets worse, if it gets dangerous, will you still stay? He breathes in sharply, like the question hits harder than expected. Then he lifts my hand and presses a gentle kiss to my knuckles. I'm not going anywhere. The elevator hums downward, and for the first time, despite the fear, despite the chaos, I feel something powerful blooming inside me. Not defeat, not doubt, resolve. I'm going to finish what my grandfather started. I'm going to take my life back, and my parents will never control me again. Snow was falling again the morning everything finally shifted. I watched it from Marcus's kitchen window, the city washed in white, quiet in a way that almost felt unreal after weeks of chaos. For the first time in what felt like forever, my shoulders weren't knotted in fear. My phone wasn't buzzing with threats. No dark cars idled outside. The world was still. But the stillness wasn't fragile anymore. It felt earned. Marcus moved around the kitchen behind me, barefoot, half awake, making coffee like he'd been doing it beside me for years. His presence no longer startled me. It settled me. Each small gesture, reaching past me for a mug, brushing a hand against my back, kissing the top of my head as he passed, felt like a quiet reminder that I wasn't alone. Not anymore. Vivian had emailed last night with the final update. The case was closed. The fraud investigation into my parents was complete. And charges, real serious charges, were moving forward. I wasn't required to testify. Their emails, messages, and the PI's confession were more than enough. My parents were no longer lurking shadows in my life. They were legal consequences waiting to happen. And I was free. A knock came at the door. Marcus looked up, surprised. That'll be the security detail, he murmured. Vivian said they'd stop by this morning. For once, I didn't tense. I didn't check the peephole 3 times. I didn't feel hunted. The security officer standing outside the door introduced himself, gave us the court's final documents, and left. No drama, no threat, just closure delivered in a manila envelope. I sat at the table, fingers trembling only slightly as I opened it. Permanent restraining order, full control of my grandfather's estate, official confirmation that I had been the victim, not the perpetrator of manipulation. And one more thing, a letter, from the court-appointed financial evaluator. I opened it and blinked. They had audited everything. The accounts, the recordings, the documents my grandfather left behind. And they'd discovered more investments, more assets, more property my parents didn't even know existed because my grandfather had hidden them too well. I let out a strangled laugh. Marcus looked up. Good news? He left me more than we thought, I whispered. A lot more. He pulled out the chair next to me. Then maybe it's time you decide how to use it. I stared down at the letter and felt something I hadn't felt in years. An open horizon. A future that belonged to me. Not shaped by fear or obligation. Not listened through keyholes or dictated by someone else's cruelty. Mine. Later that afternoon, Vivian called with one last update. It's done, she said simply. They can't touch you again. I stepped out onto the apartment balcony as she spoke, listening to the hum of the city below, breathing in cold air that tasted like relief. When we ended the call, I stayed there a while, letting the wind tangle my hair, letting the reality of my new life sink in. Marcus joined me a moment later, hands tucked into his pockets. "You okay?" I nodded. "I think, for the first time, I know what that feels like." He smiled the way he always did when he wanted to make sure I believed in myself. "What's next, Lena?" I turned to him, feeling warmth spread through my chest. "I want a home," I said softly. "A real one. Not a place to hide, a place to live, a place where I can breathe." He nodded slowly. "Good. And," I hesitated, searching his face, "I want you there. If you want to be." His expression softened, gentle, steady, full of something that felt a lot like promise. "I'm not going anywhere," he murmured. "Wherever you go next, I'm right beside you." I didn't realize I was crying until he brushed a tear away with his thumb. Weeks later, when the last snow melted and the first signs of spring touched the edges of the city, we stood in front of a little brick house just outside town. A quiet street. A yard my grandfather would have loved. A porch where light pooled in the afternoons. Not a mansion, not a fortress. A beginning. A symbol of everything I'd built for myself. Freedom, safety, peace. Inside, we painted walls, unpacked boxes, and built a life. Marcus filled the kitchen with laughter and music. I filled the shelves with books and the windowsill with plants. The security system was state-of-the-art, not because I lived in fear, but because I finally valued myself enough to protect my future. And sometimes, when the sun slanted right and the world felt particularly gentle, I could almost feel my grandfather in the house with me, watching over me the way he always wanted to. I visited his grave one morning in early summer. The air was warm, and the flowers I brought rustled softly in the breeze. "You were right," I whispered, "about all of it. Thank you for believing in me before I ever learned to believe in myself." I laid the flowers down and rested my hand against the cool stone. "I'm okay now," I said. "I'm finally okay." As I walked back to my car, I felt lighter, stronger, whole. And when I got home, my home, Marcus was waiting on the porch, smiling the way someone smiles when they know they've found the place they're meant to stay. If you've made it this far, thank you for sharing this journey with me. If you've ever felt trapped, betrayed, or underestimated, I hope my story reminds you that your worth isn't defined by the people who fail to see it. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a new chapter. There's more to come, and I'd love for you to stay with me as we keep moving forward, together.